So if you look at the human hand, purely through the lens of evolutionary biology or biomechanics, it's just this absolute marvel of practical engineering.
Oh, without a doubt. It's incredibly complex.
Right. Like you want to pick up a cup of coffee, your brain fires this specific electrical signal, the muscles in your forearm contract, and the bones act as physical levers.
Yeah, and the joints allow your fingers to close perfectly around that ceramic mug.
Exactly. It is this entirely functional, material way of viewing our existence. Basically, we're just highly advanced, fleshy machines operating according to the laws of physics in the physical world.
Which, that is the dominant paradigm of our era, right? Form follows biological function.
Yeah, that's what we're taught.
Every single physical trait we possess is viewed as the result of environmental pressures, like survival adaptations over millions of years. But the text we are examining today fundamentally shatters that paradigm.
It really does. It just completely throws it out the window.
It takes that mechanical biological lens and replaces it with a framework that is astronomically larger.
Right.
We are stepping into a really profound chapter of Kabbalistic mysticism today, and it argues the exact opposite.
The opposite of form following function.
Right. It argues that biological form does not dictate spiritual function. Rather, cosmic divine architecture dictates biological form.
It asserts that we are literally walking, breathing cosmic blueprints. And before we get too deep into the weeds here, I want to give a massive special shout out to all the followers of Ben Hod's TikTok channel for joining us on this deep dive today.
Yes, welcome. We are so glad you're here.
Thank you guys for tuning in. If you are coming from that channel, you probably already know that today is going to be incredibly mind-bending. We're looking at this dense, intensely profound chapter of ancient mystical text that maps out the spiritual anatomy of the human body.
It is incredibly intricate.
It is. And the mission today is to decode this ancient framework. And I promise you, by the end of this deep dive, you will never look at your own hands, your toes, or even your ability to speak in the same way again.
You really won't. It changes everything.
Because the text posits that the human body isn't just a biological vessel. It is an exact blueprint of the forces that created the universe.
So to set the stage here, the foundational premise introduces a concept known as the 10 Sephirot of nothingness.
Right, the Sephirot.
Yeah. And to understand anything that follows, we really have to grasp what these are. Because in this esoteric tradition, the Sephirot are not physical objects.
They're more like energy channels, right?
Exactly. They are the 10 fundamental divine forces or channels through which the infinite, like the unknowable divine essence, restricts and reveals itself to continuously create the universe, both spiritual and physical.
You could almost think of them as the underlying spiritual geometry of reality itself.
That's a great way to put it, spiritual geometry. And instead of leaving these 10 cosmic forces as these abstract, unknowable concepts just floating out in the ether, the text immediately anchors them
into our bodies,
right into the most immediate, tangible reality we have, which is human anatomy. It maps these forces directly onto the 10 fingers and the 10 toes.
And it claims they're bridged by a singular covenant, which we'll get into.
We definitely will.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the very first verse provided in our source material acts as this, it's like a master key for the entire system.
It is. The verse, when translated from the original Hebrew, reads, and I'll just quote it here, 10 Sephirah of nothingness, in the number of 10 fingers, 5 opposite 5, with a singular covenant precisely in the middle.
And then it specifies me.
Right. It says, in the circumcision of the tongue and in the circumcision of the membrum.
Which is, incredibly cryptic right out of the gate.
Very much so.
But let's start where the text starts, with the hands. Because if the premise is that the physical body mirrors this divine macrocosm, how exactly do the hands represent the Sephirah?
Well, the text explicitly states that creation was accomplished with God's fingers. It cites Psalms 8.4, which says, the work of your fingers.
So there is this immediate, direct parallel drawn between the 10 numerical digits, like the foundation of all mathematics, and the 10 fingers on a human hand.
Exactly, but the correspondence goes so much deeper than just the number 10, because the text actually delves into the specific skeletal structure of the human hand.
This is where it gets crazy.
It really does. So in a single hand, you obviously have 5 fingers, but if we examine the bone structure, the thumb consists of 2 bones.
Right.
While the index, middle, ring, and pinky fingers each consist of 3 bones. So 4 fingers with 3 bones each equals 12, plus the 2 in the thumb.
Giving us exactly 14 bones in the 5 fingers of one hand.
14 exact bones.
And this is the exact point in the source material where this fusion of biology and linguistics just absolutely floored me. Because the text notes that the Hebrew word for hand is yad.
Spelled with 2 letters, yes. Yod and Dalet.
Right, yod and dalet. And in the Hebrew alphanumeric system, gematria, every letter possesses an inherent numerical value. So the letter yod has a value of 10.
And the letter Dalet has a value of 4.
10 plus 4 equals 14. The Hebrew word for hand, yod, inherently holds the mathematical value of 14, perfectly mirroring the 14 phalanges that construct the physical hand.
It's a perfect match. Now, in a secular view, someone might dismiss this as just a mere numerical coincidence.
The quirk of language.
Exactly. But in the Kabbalistic framework, coincidence just does not exist.
Yeah.
Language, and specifically the Hebrew language in this text, is viewed not as a human invention designed to describe physical reality.
Wait, really? Because normally we think of words as just tools we made up to point at things.
Right, but here, the language is viewed as the actual spiritual substance from which physical reality is constructed.
Okay, wait, I need to push back on that for a second. Are we saying that a biological appendage, which evolutionary science tells us developed over millions of years, right? From fins to paws to primate hands, are we saying that's actually just a physical crystallization of ancient Hebrew syntax?
That is exactly what the text is arguing.
But how does a biological evolutionary feature map perfectly to a linguistic concept? Like, which came first in this philosophy?
According to this mystical tradition, the spiritual template came first. Always. The letters and their numerical values represent specific frequencies or limitations of divine energy.
So the concept of yod existed before physical hands did.
Precisely. The concept of yod, which is the capacity to reach out, to grasp, to interact, represented mathematically by the number 14, pre-existed the physical universe.
Wow.
So when the physical universe was formed, the biological matter grew into that specific spiritual mold.
It's like discovering the source code of a video game hidden in the physical hardware of the controller itself.
That is a brilliant analogy.
Yeah.
Yes. The physical hand has 14 bones because the spiritual concept of the hand operates on the mathematical frequency of 14. The biology is conforming to the cosmic architecture, not the other way around.
That completely flips the script on how we understand our own bodies. I want you, the listener, to literally just look at your hand right now.
Seriously, look at it.
Try to see it not just as a tool for, like, grabbing your coffee or typing on the keyboard, but as a mirrored reflection of the forces of creation. We aren't just adapting to an environment. Our biology is expressing a mathematical divine truth.
It's a heavy concept.
It is. But the verse doesn't just say we have 10 fingers. It specifically mandates a spatial arrangement. It says 5 opposite 5.
Right. 5 opposite 5.
Why the emphasis on opposition? If these 10 forces are the building blocks of reality, why are they split into 2 competing factions of 5?
So to answer that, we have to look at how the Sephirot operate dynamically. In their default latent state, the 10 Sephirot are traditionally mapped out in a state of equilibrium. They utilize 3 vertical columns. You have a right column, a left column, and a central column that balances the 2 perfectly.
So they're perfectly balanced.
Yes. But in this state of perfect equilibrium, there is harmony, sure, but there is no active creation. It is entirely a state of rest.
Because perfect balance means nothing is moving.
Exactly. There's no momentum. What's fascinating here is that if you want to generate power, if you want to create something new, you have to disrupt that equilibrium.
You have to break the balance.
The text explains that before God could create the physical world, or as it says, spread out the heavens, the Sephirot had to be dynamically polarized.
Okay, how does that work?
Well, the forces in that central balancing column are drawn outward. They shift to the right and the left, splitting the entire 10-part system into 2 distinct arrays.
2 columns instead of 3.
Right. You suddenly have this masculine array on the right and a feminine array on the left.
And the text actually names these forces to explain what happens when they polarize, right?
It does.
The 5 Sephirot that move to the right array include Keter, Chakma, Chizd, Tiferet, and Netzach. And the text refers to these as the 5 loves, or in Hebrew, Taladim.
Yes.
And then on the left side, the feminine array gathers Bina, Gevurah, Hod, Yesod, and Melkut. And these are termed the 5 strengths, or Gevurot.
That's right, loves and strengths.
I want to dig into these terms, though, because calling them loves and strengths, I mean, it feels like a simplification of some very heavy machinery. What do these arrays actually represent mechanically?
Let's look at the anchor of each side to really understand the mechanical function. On the right, the masculine side, the dominant force is cheesed.
Which means?
It translates loosely to loving kindness, but mechanically in the system it means infinite, unbridled expansion.
Just pure outward force.
Exactly. It is the desire to give endlessly without any boundaries whatsoever. But think about it. If you have infinite expansion in a finite universe, it overwhelms and destroys the vessel.
It's like pouring an ocean into a teacup. The teacup just shatters.
Precisely. The teacup shatters. So it needs a counterforce to stop it from exploding.
And that counterforce is on the left.
Yes. That counterforce resides on the left, the feminine array, and it's anchored by Gevura.
And Gevura means strength.
Strength, severity, or judgment. Mechanically, it represents limitation, boundary, and containment. It is the vessel itself. It restricts the infinite expansion of the right side so that it can actually be received in a measured, constructive way.
So by taking the 10 Sephirot and arranging them as 5 opposite 5, you've got 5 forces of infinite expansion opposed by 5 forces of strict containment.
Right.
That creates an environment of immense spiritual tension.
Immense tension. And this answers a major question a lot of people have when they first read this.
Yeah, because usually we view tension as a bad thing, right? Like a negative state that needs to be resolved or relaxed.
Exactly. But in this framework, tension is the absolute prerequisite for existence.
The analogy that clarifies this for me, and this really helped it click, isn't about human emotion at all. It's about physics.
Okay, let's hear it.
If you think about a rubber band, sitting on a desk in equilibrium, it has no power. But if you stretch it between 2 hands, if you polarize it, it suddenly stores immense kinetic energy ready to be unleashed.
That's a great visual.
Or even better, think of an electrical generator. It doesn't create electricity by sitting perfectly still in harmony.
No, it doesn't.
You have to have a magnetic stator and a rotor. You have to force positive and negative magnetic fields into extreme polarized opposition. The intense resistance and tension between those 2 opposing arrays is what actually induces the electrical current.
Without the tension, the city goes dark.
Exactly.
I love that. That is a phenomenal mechanical analogy, and it aligns perfectly with the text's assertion that before creation could occur, this tension had to be established. In fact, the text explicitly compares this divine creation to human procreation.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because the conception of life cannot happen in isolation, right? It requires the forceful interaction of masculine and feminine elements. The cosmic tension of 5 opposite 5 is literally the engine of the universe.
And the text grounds this massive cosmic concept in a very physical historical event.
Yes, the Abrahamic covenant.
Right. It connects this esoteric polarity to the covenant God makes with Abraham in Genesis chapter 15. Now, if you grew up reading these texts, you know this story as the covenant between the parts.
Which is a very strange story.
It's always seemed like a very weird, almost gruesome ritual to me.
Yeah.
God tells Abraham to bring 5 specific animals, right? A prime heifer, a female goat, a ram, a turtle dove, and a pigeon.
5 animals, and pay close attention to the geometry of what Abraham is commanded to do with them. He is instructed to divide 3 of the mammals precisely in half: the heifer, the goat, and the ram.
Okay, so he cuts 3 animals in half.
Right, which yields 6 distinct pieces of flesh. According to the Kabbalistic interpretation in our text, these 6 halves geometrically represent the 6 sephirot that normally occupy the right and left columns in the traditional 3-column diagram.
The outer columns.
Yes. And he places these halves opposite each other, literally creating physical tension and space between them on the ground.
But he doesn't cut all 5 animals. The text explicitly points out that the 2 birds, the turtle dove and the pigeon, are left whole. Why spare the birds?
Because the birds represent the central column. The 2 whole birds symbolically represent 4 halves, basically corresponding to the 4 sephirot that reside in the center line of the diagram.
Wow. Okay.
So when Abraham performed this ancient ritual of splitting the animals, he wasn't just, butchering livestock.
He was acting it out.
He was actively, physically constructing a 3-dimensional map of the polarized sephirot. By splitting the outer forces and placing the central forces in the middle, he was physically manufacturing the spiritual tension of 5 opposite 5 on the earthly plane.
He was building a spiritual generator out of physical components to facilitate an interaction with the divine.
Exactly. This alignment of physical matter with spiritual architecture is what generated the necessary force to bind the eternal covenant.
That is wild. And that takes us directly into how this tension is utilized beyond just ancient rituals, right? Like, how do humans use it? We move from the theory of the hands to the actual actions of the hands.
Right, because if tension creates power, you have to know how to channel it. The text lists several actions where hands are used to channel spiritual forces.
Like the laying on of hands or spreading hands in prayer.
Yes, but the most prominent example it gives is the priestly blessing.
Okay, how does that work in this framework?
Well, the mechanics of the priestly blessing are incredibly specific here. The Cohen priest cannot just casually wave his hands over the congregation. The text mandates a very precise physical posture.
Which is?
The priest must raise his hands with his fingers outstretched and position them so they are precisely level with his mouth.
Why the mouth?
Because in doing so, he is intentionally activating the polarization of the Sephirot. He is holding up the 5 fingers of the right hand, the array of expansion, and the 5 fingers of the left hand, the array of containment.
He is physically manifesting the opposite 5 tension right in front of his face.
Right, and it is vital to understand that the physical raising of the hands is completely meaningless without the accompanying internal state.
He has to know what he's doing.
Exactly. The priest must meditate on the fact that his fingers are the physical anchors for these cosmic forces. He uses his consciousness to bridge the gap between the physical flesh and the spiritual reality.
So he's focusing that energy.
By holding this polarized geometry level with his mouth, he creates a literal spiritual current between his hands. And the text describes this intense concentration of energy as serving to circumcise the tongue, which is what actually gives the blessing its effect.
I really want to hold on that phrase, circumcise the tongue, for a moment, because we absolutely need to decode that. But first, the text reinforces this idea of generating a current between 2 polarized points by bringing up the Ark of the Covenant, right?
It does.
We sat in the Holy of Holies. And according to this tradition, the Ark functioned on the exact same mechanical principles as the priest's hands.
Yes, the Zohar, which is a foundational Kabbalistic text, provides this fascinating analysis of the Ark. So, sitting upon the golden cover of the Ark were the 2 cherubim.
The winged angelic figures.
Right, facing one another. But these were not merely decorative statues. The text asserts that the 2 cherubim represented the exact same polarized array we've been discussing, the masculine and feminine divisions of the Sephirot.
And look at what they were positioned over.
Yeah.
Inside the Ark were the tablets of the 10 Commandments.
Yes.
5 commandments carved on one stone tablet and 5 carved on the other. It's the exact same geometry. 5 opposite 5.
It's perfectly mirrored.
You have the 10 fingers mirrored by the 10 commandments, with the 2 cherubim acting as the polarized positive and negative magnetic poles hovering directly above them.
And by constructing the Ark according to these precise specifications, the ancient Israelites essentially built an object that maintained a permanent, localized state of spiritual tension.
Like a static force field.
Exactly. The physical geometry of the gold, the stone, and the spacing served as a tuning fork for the spiritual frequencies of the polarized Sephirot. And this radically redefines how the text views the whole phenomenon of prophecy.
Right, because if prophecy isn't just, God whispering in someone's ear from a cloud, what is it? How does a prophet actually receive information from the divine?
Prophecy in this framework requires a medium of immense spiritual tension. When God tells Moses in Exodus that he will speak to him from above the ark cover, from between the 2 cherubim,
It's not just a location.
no, it is a mechanical instruction. The text suggests that to receive prophecy, the prophet had to actively meditate on that specific point of tension between the polarized arrays. The prophet's consciousness had to literally tune into that localized spiritual current.
So what does this all mean? It means prophecy and deep prayer aren't passive states of just listening. They are highly active, meditative states of focusing tension. The prophet is an incredibly advanced radio operator, actively configuring their own spiritual and physical geometry to intercept this high-voltage frequency that is constantly broadcasting between those polarized poles.
That's a perfect summary.
And that brings us back to the mouth of the priest, positioned exactly between his hands, and that really intense kind of jarring metaphor the text uses.
The circumcision of the tongue.
Right. If the hands represent the arrays of tension, what role does the mouth play right in the middle of them?
The text calls the mouth the singular covenant that bridges the 10 fingers. To decode what circumcision of the tongue means, we really have to explore the dual nature of the Hebrew language here.
Okay, let's get into it.
The Hebrew word for circumcision is milah. Physically, it denotes the act of cutting, removing a barrier, or uncovering. But, incredibly, the exact same word, milah, also translates to word.
Wait, really? It's the same spelling, same pronunciation.
Identical. M-I-L-H. The text references 2 Samuel 23.2, where King David says, God's Spirit speaks in me, and his word milah is on my tongue.
Oh, wow.
Therefore, when the esoteric text speaks of the circumcision of the tongue, it is making a profound double entendre. It is simultaneously referring to the word of the tongue.
Okay, mechanically, though, how does a physical act of cutting translate to the act of speaking? Because a physical circumcision removes a biological layer of tissue. What barrier is a spiritual circumcision of the tongue removing?
It is removing the spiritual and egoic barriers that prevent a human being from channeling raw creative force through their speech. The text explains that true resonant speech, the kind that alters reality, isn't just about having a good vocabulary or great rhetoric.
It's not just being a good public speaker.
No, it is about divine alignment. When a person's tongue is circumcised, they have removed the layers of deceit, superficiality, and self-interest that muffle the spiritual impact of their words.
They gain true fluency.
Exactly. True fluency isn't just knowing words, it's spiritual clarity. They gain the ability to utilize the mysteries of language to literally alter reality.
Which provides this completely wild reinterpretation of Moses.
Oh, absolutely.
Because when Moses is called to confront Pharaoh, he balks. In Exodus 6.12, he tries to refuse the mission by claiming he has uncircumcised lips. And I always read that, I think most people do, as Moses having a speech impediment, like a stutter or maybe a physical deformity that made it hard for him to articulate.
Yeah, literalist interpretations almost always view it as a physical stutter, but the Kabbalistic framework views it entirely as a spiritual condition. Moses is not complaining about his vocal cords.
He's saying he's spiritually blocked.
Yes, he feels he lacks the pure, unhindered, circumcised channel necessary to speak words of such divine power that they could actually dismantle an empire and alter history.
He knows what's required.
He recognizes that to speak the plagues into existence, his words cannot originate from his own ego. They must be pure conduits for the divine will. The circumcision of the tongue is the attainment of that pure conduit.
This is so fascinating. I really want you, listening to this, to just consider the weight of your own words for a second. In an era of like casual texting and social media rants where we just throw words around constantly, this text elevates speech to a deeply mystical, powerful act that requires actual uncovering to be used correctly.
It makes you think twice before speaking, that's for sure.
It really does. But moving on, if speech is the ultimate creative act of the upper body, an act so powerful, it requires massive spiritual tension to execute what grounds it.
That's the vital next question.
Right, because if you are handling a massive electrical charge, an antenna needs a grounding wire, the whole system burns out. How does this biological and spiritual system ground itself?
And this leads us directly to the second half of the foundational verse, which moves us from the upper body down to the lower body.
Okay, so the verse states that the singular covenant is precisely in the middle, in the circumcision of the tongue and in the circumcision of the member.
Notice how the structure is perfectly symmetrical. Just as you have the upper array of 10 fingers meat-eating the power of the mouth, you have the lower array of 10 toes serving as the foundation of our physical stance.
Mediating the power of the sexual organ, the member.
Correct. The 10 toes represent the exact same 10 sephirot, but manifesting on a lower, much more physical plane. And the physical mark of the covenant, the actual circumcision, is placed precisely in the middle of this lower array.
The text makes a major point about the timing of this physical mark. It is commanded to be performed specifically on the 8th day of a child's life.
Yes, the 8th day is crucial.
Why 8? What is the deep geometrical and metaphysical explanation for that specific number?
So the Kabbalistic explanation of the 8th day relies on understanding how dimensions work in this framework. The text observes that the physical world was created in 6 days.
Okay, 6 days.
Right. And in our three-dimensional physical universe, there are exactly 6 primary directions: up, down, north, south, east, and west. These 6 directions encompass the absolute totality of physical space. You cannot move physically without moving in one of those 6 vectors.
Right, so you have 6 days of creation, 6 vectors of a 3D grid. Where does the 7th come in?
The 7th day, the Sabbath, represents the perfection and spiritual centering of that physical world. Geometrically, if you draw lines through those 6 directions, the 7th point is the exact center intersection where they all meet.
The focal point.
Yes, it is the focal point that holds the entire physical grid together in balance and rest. So the numbers 1 through 7 represent the entirety of the perfected, balanced physical universe.
Which means if you step to number 8,
Yeah,
you are no longer in the physical universe.
precisely. You've transcended it. The 8th day represents a step beyond the physical grid. It is the realm of the transcendental, the supernatural, that which operates completely above the laws of physical nature.
So by establishing the physical mark of the covenant on the sexual organs, specifically on the 8th day, the text is arguing that the divine endowed human beings with the power to operate on this transcendental plane.
Yes. And the text is incredibly direct about how this power is primarily exercised. It says this transcendental connection is accessed through the act of conception.
Because the mark is on the reproductive organ.
Exactly. It gives the individual the capacity to tap into the highest spiritual realms during procreation, allowing them to draw down what the text actually refers to as lofty souls.
This represents a massive divergence from so many other religious traditions. I mean, many ascetic, esoteric paths view human sexuality as inherently base or animalistic, or something that has to be entirely shunned and suppressed to achieve any kind of holiness.
Right, they see it as a distraction from the divine.
But this Kabbalistic text takes a radically different stance. It acknowledges without judgment that the sexual drive is one of the most overwhelmingly powerful physical and psychological forces within a human being.
It doesn't tell you to turn off the engine.
Exactly. It tells you that you were sitting on a rocket and you need to learn how to aim it.
That's a fantastic way to phrase it. The text argues that when this immense raw energy is consciously channeled along spiritual lines, rather than just serving base physical gratification, it can actually propel an individual to the absolute highest mystical states.
So it's about elevation.
Entirely. The covenant of the 8th day represents the conscious, intentional elevation of sexual energy. The passion, the deep emotional resonance, the physical desires, they are not discarded. They are harnessed and utilized in the quest to connect with the divine on a plane that transcends the physical grid entirely.
The text even outlines a specific meditative practice for this, which is wild. It suggests that by deeply meditating on the 10 toes as the anchors for the 10 Sephirot, an individual can concentrate that spiritual energy directly into the central singular covenant.
Yes, it's a very active meditation.
By achieving this intense focus, the person gains profound spiritual control over their physical actions. They sanctify the act of intimacy to such a degree that they can intuitively influence the spiritual architecture of the child being conceived.
It requires immense presence.
Yeah, it's about maintaining absolute transcendental presence during an act where the normal human instinct is usually to completely surrender consciousness and just lose control.
It is the ultimate integration of the lowest physical impulses with the highest spiritual intentions.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. What happens if an individual attempts to combine the spiritual tension of the upper array, the mouth and the hands, with the transcendental grounding of the lower array?
Ah, yes. The story of Elijah.
The text provides this breathtaking scriptural example of a prophet doing exactly this to achieve an unparalleled concentration of power. It looks at the prophet Elijah on Mount Carmel.
It's such a fascinating reinterpretation of that scene.
So if we look at 1 Kings 18, Elijah has just concluded this massive nation-altering showdown with the prophets of Baal. Fire has literally fallen from the sky. The tension is unimaginable. And afterward, he goes up to the top of the mountain. And the scripture specifically describes his physical posture.
It says he crouched on the ground and put his face between his knees.
Right. And when you read that purely as a historical narrative, it sounds like he is simply exhausted. It sounds like a trauma response, like someone putting their head down to prevent a panic attack after a massive adrenaline crash.
But when interpreted through the lens of this mystical text, and specifically the Midrashic tradition, that physical posture is revealed to be a highly advanced, deliberate, esoteric technology.
Okay, break that down for us.
By crouching and placing his head directly between his knees, Elijah was physically juxtaposing the circumcision of the tongue, the upper singular covenant of speech and prophecy, directly against the circumcision of the membrum, the lower singular covenant of transcendental 8th day power.
He was literally taking the positive terminal and touching it to the negative terminal.
Yes.
He was aligning the upper and lower covenants into a single closed spiritual circuit.
That is exactly what he was doing. He took the intensely focused, reality-altering energy of the mouth and brought it into direct conjunction with the deeply grounded, transcendental force of the lower body. He created a massive, localized loop of spiritual energy.
Wow.
By aligning the upper and lower centers, he perfectly balanced the tension between the right and left arrays of the Sephiro across his entire physical form. This was not a posture of exhaustion at all. It was an active, physically demanding configuration designed to achieve the deepest possible state of prophetic communion.
That interpretation just changes the entire landscape of how we understand these ancient figures. They were not just like wandering around in robes, occasionally hearing voices. They were actively operating sophisticated biological machinery based on an exact cosmic blueprint.
It really shifts them from passive receivers to active operators.
It does. And this synthesis of the upper and lower bodies brings us to the grand finale of the text. It takes all the components we have explored today and merges them into one final, staggering revelation about human existence.
If we connect this to the bigger picture to understand this final synthesis, we just need to do the math one last time.
Let's do it.
Let us count the specific anatomical elements the text is focused on to represent this spiritual machinery. In the upper array, you have the 10 fingers.
Right.
In the lower array, you have the 10 toes. You have the upper singular covenant, which is the one tongue, and you have the lower singular covenant, which is the one sexual organ.
So 10 fingers plus 10 toes plus one tongue plus one membrum. That gives us exactly 22 physical elements.
And in the Hebrew alphabet, the foundational system of letters that this esoteric tradition claims God used to articulate and construct the mythical universe, there are exactly 22 letters.
It's a perfect mathematical and conceptual mirror. 22 elements.
22 letters. The text makes the conclusion absolute and inescapable. These 22 physical components of the human form precisely parallel the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet.
But mechanically, how do letters build a universe? Because that's a big jump.
In Kabbalah, the breath originates deep within, right? Representing formless, infinite divine energy. As that breath is pushed outward, it passes through the vocal apparatus, the throat, the tongue, the teeth, the lips.
Okay, the physical organs.
Yes. And these physical organs restrict and shape that infinite breath in 22 distinct ways.
So each letter is a specific, unique restriction of infinite energy that gives it a finite form and boundary.
Exactly. The 22 letters are the 22 fundamental ways to shape divine energy into physical matter. Therefore, by mapping those 22 letters directly onto the 22 specific parts of the human anatomy, the text explicitly states, and this is the core thesis, the individual's body itself thus becomes an alphabet, with which he can write in the spiritual realm.
That is that is the most profound distillation of this entire framework. You are not a random biological accident. You are not just a creature wandering aimlessly through a pre-existing universe. Your physical body is a living, breathing, biological alphabet.
You are a physical manifestation of the exact cosmic language that wrote the stars into existence.
The analogy that cements this for me is viewing the human body as a keyboard. We are not just players navigating the world. Our physical forms are the very keyboards upon which the ongoing reality of the universe is being typed out.
That's a beautiful way to see it.
Think about it. When you consciously align your actions, the things you build and destroy with your 10 fingers, and you align your speech to the truths you tell or the lies you spread with your tongue, and you align your deepest physical drives and passions, represented by the 10 toes and the lower covenant, when you bring all 22 of those elements into intentional spiritual harmony, you aren't just existing.
No, you are actively composing reality.
You are writing your intent into the permanent spiritual fabric of existence.
It demands an incredible level of mindfulness, doesn't it? Because if every single action is a letter being typed in the spiritual realm, there are no neutral actions.
Every keystroke matters.
A casual handshake, a whispered promise, a moment of physical intimacy, they cease to be just mundane biological occurrences. They are the active utilization of cosmic architecture. The tension of the Sephirah, the polarity of our left and right arrays, the biological geometry of our bones. It all exists solely so that we have the physical capacity to be active co-creators in the universe.
It is a deeply empowering philosophy, but it is also an incredibly demanding one. It completely strips away any excuse for apathy. It demands that we pay absolute attention to how we use this machinery.
It really does.
So let's retrace the path of this blueprint we've decoded today. We started at the surface looking at the hands and uncovered how the 14 bones perfectly mirror the numerical value of Yod, proving that the biological form is a crystallization of linguistic and spiritual truths.
And then we moved from form to function. We explored how the Sephirah must be polarized from equilibrium into arrays of 5 opposite 5. because it is only through that immense opposing tension that the generative force required for creation is actually produced. We saw how ancient rituals physically mapped this tension.
Right, and we examined how that tension is practically channeled through physical geometry, like the raised hands of the priest acting as a stator to induce a spiritual current. This current circumcises the tongue, burning away the ego to allow for pure, reality-altering speech, which changes our entire understanding of prophecy from passive listening to active, high-voltage tuning.
We then grounded this system in the lower body, exploring the geometry of the eighth day as the portal to the transcendental plane. We learned that the text views our most powerful biological and sexual drives not as things to be repressed, but as immense engines meant to be aimed at the highest mystical states.
And finally, we saw how the physical alignment of these centers, like Elijah crouching on the mountain, closes the circuit. And when you add up those anchors, the 10 fingers, 10 toes, tongue, and membrum, you get the 22 elements that perfectly parallel the 22 letters of the alphabet, turning the human body into the literal keyboard of creation.
It's an astonishing journey.
It really is. I want to reiterate our thanks to everyone from Ben Hod's TikTok channel for taking this specific deep dive with us today. This was dense, intricate, beautifully complex material, and decoding this cosmic blueprint with you all has just been phenomenal.
This framework challenges every material assumption we hold about what it means to be human. And as you step away from this conversation, I want to leave you with a mechanical question to ponder.
Let's hear it.
If your physical form is indeed an alphabet and the polarity of your anatomy is designed specifically to write in the spiritual realm, what kind of permanent story are you typing out with your everyday actions today?
Man, that is a heavy, essential question to leave on. Remember to literally look at your own hands today. Look past the biology and see the blueprint. Keep exploring, keep challenging the material narrative, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.